If you want to know how to use keyboard shortcuts to improve your productivity, then stick around. And if you don't want to know that, then, well, you probably should. Hello and welcome to Take One Tech. My name's Alec. I hope we didn't lose anyone there in that intro because I do get it. Keyboard shortcuts doesn't sound like the most interesting of topics, does it really? But they can really help improve your productivity. And I've got a few things to tell you about today that are going to be really useful for anybody who's a Mac user, really, but also for specifically people who are Stream Deck users. And at the end, I've got a couple of little tips for any Ecam Live users among you, because I know there are a few of you who watch my channel. So why the fuss about keyboard shortcuts? Or rather, why am I making a fuss about it? Well, they are the easiest way to increase your efficiency and productivity whilst working on your Mac. And the question I often think people ask is, there's just so many of them to learn. How do you even start to get into the habit of learning all these shortcuts? You know, when you get a new application, there's so many different functions and things like that to learn. How do you actually get to the point of being quick on the keyboard to be able to just know these things inside and out? Well, I've got a little cheat for you today. So that's one of the things that I'll be telling you about. But also I'll be talking about Stream Deck and where the place for using keyboard shortcuts is over using a device like the Stream Deck. Now, for around about 15 years in a previous role in my life, I was an architect, still am really, but just non-practicing. And so I used this thing. It's a space mouse, called a space mouse, 3D connection space mouse, and it's a 3D mouse. So this little ball, for want of a better word, in the middle, it's not a ball, but this control in the middle basically can move in any direction in sort of 3D space. So you can push it up and pull it down, you can rotate it left and right, and you can tilt it forwards, backwards, left and right in any direction. And basically you can use that to manipulate any sort of 3D model that you happen to be working on, whether it be a house or whatever it is. And then so I could have one hand on the 3D mouse and one hand on my Logitech MX Master, and then it's also got a number of buttons on the side for you to be able to activate keyboard shortcuts and things like that. So that enabled me to basically sit with these two hands, one on the 3D mouse, one on my regular mouse, and just design an entire house basically from that position. So when you're doing that, you don't have your hands on the keyboard. So it's hard to obviously activate those shortcuts, but the 3D mouse has shortcut buttons built into it. But then when I'm doing things where I'm actually typing or have my hands on the keyboard, then my hands naturally are able to make those keyboard shortcuts that way. So the 3D mouse has been sort of moved slightly over to one side of my desk now because it's not getting quite as much use. And the Stream Deck has sort of taken its place, I'm afraid. Afraid for the 3D mouse at least. And so where do I use the Stream Deck over actual keyboard shortcuts on the keyboard itself? Well, it's when I've basically only got one hand spare, like I've got one hand on the mouse, so I'm doing something else, or if I'm recording like this, I don't want to be sort of leaning forward over the microphone to use keyboard shortcuts. So I find that the Stream Deck is really handy because it basically allows me to operate a lot of things from just here with one hand. But basically the Stream Deck is not a great deal more than a set of keyboard shortcuts. There are a number of applications that have actually written specific functions or actions that you can have on the Stream Deck, and one of those, a great example of one of those would be Ecamm Live, because they've actually made a sort of really deep integration into the Stream Deck. So you've got a lot of the built-in functions that you would have in Ecamm Live. They've actually made custom buttons and actions for them. But what about all the other applications that you've got that haven't actually made any specific packages or plugins for the Stream Deck? In that case, it's a case of really just using the keyboard shortcuts that that application has and then programming those into the Stream Deck. But it can sometimes be a little bit hard to find out the keyboard shortcuts that you want, and occasionally there aren't any keyboard shortcuts available either. So then what do you do if there is no shortcut available for the application that you want? Well, that is what the second application that I'm going to tell you about today is all about. And I'm going to show you how you can create your own shortcuts in the Mac system itself, but also using this other application. And then, I'll show you a few little tips and tricks at the end as well. So with all of that long rambling introduction said, how do you, coming back to that first question, how do you actually learn all of the shortcuts for a given application? And that is where this first app comes into play. It's an app called Cheat Sheet. So it's a really simple app, and it's free to download and use. And once you click on the download button and install the app, it's really simple. Let me just move this window out of the way, because all you do is you just press and hold down the command key from anywhere in the interface. And if you press and hold it for a few moments, then what happens is this pops up on your screen, and it tells you all of the available keyboard commands that you've got at your disposal at that particular time, depending on what application you're in. So because Safari is the active window, I've got all of the different keyboard shortcuts for that. So it's often a lot handier, I find, than going and sort of hunting through the app itself. So if you go up to the menu bar of any application, then if you just click on a menu item, you can see that it does actually tell you what the keyboard shortcuts are. So if you ever want to find out, you can find out that way. But yeah, this app, I think, makes it a lot simpler to just be able to press command, and you can just see an overview of all of the shortcuts that you have available. Now, if you come down, here is the link back to the website, and then also in the bottom right hand corner, you've got the little cogwheel signifying the preferences, and then yeah, you can just come up here. You can also print them out. So if you do want to have a cheat sheet that you can print out when you're trying to get to learn a particular piece of software and all of the keyboard shortcuts, then this is an absolutely great way to do that. And I often do that when I'm learning a new piece of software and want to just familiarize myself with it. I just find it handy to have this until I get into that sort of muscle memory of knowing exactly where they are. So that's a great little feature, just being able to print out all of those keyboard shortcuts. The other things that we've got down here is a delay, and that's basically when you press the command key, you have to hold it down. So I'm actually holding the key down all the time that this is on the screen, and you can change that delay, so whether you want to hold it down for longer or less in order to initially activate it. But that's about all there is to it. Isn't that an absolutely fantastic little piece of software? So now, if you wanted to program these into your Stream Deck, you could simply print them all off, or print the screen. So if I go to print, bear in mind, here's another little tip for you, just while we're on tips. You can see that that's formatted it as a page there. And so if you wanted to print this out, you could print it out here onto paper. But of course, we don't want to do that these days, do we? So it would be much more handy if we had a PDF so that we could have them on screen. Coming back to Stream Deck, if we were going to program these into our Stream Deck, then we could have them all on our screen. So how do we do that? Well, we just click down here onto this PDF, and we just go to Save as PDF. And then if I do that now, then when we've done that, it should, when my Mac stops beach balling, we can give it a name of the particular app or whatever, and then we can click Save. So if you've got a few of these to get used to, or a few of them that you want to make the Stream Deck buttons for and actions for, then you could create one for each application, save them out, and then come and refer back to it later. So that is the first app that I want to tell you about. And yeah, I'll just show you that again, because I just thought that was genius when I first saw this app. Just press and hold the command key, and then, hey presto, it should pop up any minute now. There we go. So yeah, once again, Media Atelier. I'll leave a link to the website for that down in the description below. So that tells you, obviously, all of the shortcuts that are available for any given app. But what if you come to a situation, let's just stay in Safari now, and you can see how this one here, export as PDF, it doesn't have a shortcut available for it. And this one here, export bookmarks. So what happens if you want to actually assign a keyboard shortcut to those things? Well, there is a way to do this built into the Mac already. So I'll show you how to do that first. If I just come over to this page here. So this is my system preferences loaded up here. And what you want to do is come down into the keyboard area here, click on keyboard. And then here we've got various different menu items along the top. And we want this one, shortcuts. So then you come into shortcuts, and we've got different shortcuts that we've got assigned for different things, and you can flick through all of these and see what all of these are. But then also you've got this one down here that may be slightly truncated depending on how wide this is. In fact, that doesn't make any difference. It's here anyway. App shortcuts, it says, just down at this bottom. So there you can click on that, and if we wanted to add a shortcut, you just select the application, Safari, let's say. 1 second. I should have picked one beginning with an A, make it easier to find it. Where's Safari gone? There we go, Safari. And what you'll need to do is you have to enter the exact name of the menu item. So I can't remember the name of the menu item. Don't worry, there's a much easier way to do it than this, but I'm just showing you this to show you the built-in way first. So File, Export as PDF. Now, can we actually do that one? Because it's got a ... on it. I'm not sure. Let's try. Export as PDF. So if I type here, export... Now I've got to make sure I get the capital right. It's a little bit tricky, this one. Don't worry, there's an easier way. But this is the built-in way. PDF ... Right, now I'm just going to press Command-Shift-E just as a trial. So there we go, Command-Shift-E. And if I add that as a shortcut, it will now appear in here. So let me go back to this side, and then I'll press in Safari. And if I do Command-Shift-E, let's see what happens. Will the magic work? There you go. So now it's exporting as PDF. So that has worked. But you'll notice there was a couple of things in that were a little bit tricky. First of all, there was no clue until we tried it that we had actually got the menu item right in terms of the spelling. And you also do have to type it out manually and make sure you do get that correct. And yeah, it's also a little bit finicky to find. I suppose, it's not that difficult. You come into the keyboard and then you come over here. But wouldn't it be nice if there was a nice, simpler interface that you could have to manage all of these keyboard shortcuts? And that is where my next recommended app comes in. And it's an app called Custom Shortcuts. Aptly named and very intuitive and easy to use as well, as you will see. And once again, it's another free download, and this is from Huda Software, and they make a number of other paid products as well, which are good, like Huda Suite, Huda Spot, Huda Geo. So those are paid products, but this is just a little free one that they have, and it's really nice. So let me come over and show you this one now. So when you download the app, you will have to go into, in fact, let me come over to System Preferences. When you install the app, it will ask you to grant access to accessibility. So I'll just show you where this is. If we come into the, 1 second, I'm flipping all through my different desktops here by accident. There we go, I want the spotlight, not the change space. So it'll ask you to come into the security and privacy. It'll prompt you to do this. You won't actually have to find it, but and it's going to ask you to activate the or give access for the accessibility features, which is something that you need if you're going to have keyboard shortcuts. It's just part of the Mac system that it needs to have access to. And the other one that it will ask for is full disk access. So if you come in here, then it will ask you to give access in here somewhere or other. It should appear in here. But yeah, as I say, it will prompt you to do this, and it will take you through to the right page of System Preferences to do it as well. But just to let you know to expect that when you do install it. So let me come back to the app itself, because it is really easy to use, and all you have to do is let's try and do that same thing that we did before. So if I want to add a keyboard shortcut for Safari, we've got applications down the side. It's got some of them in there, but you can add in whatever applications you want. Click on Safari, and you'll notice that one that we've already added in here, it has a list of all custom keyboard shortcuts, whether you've assigned them in here or if you've assigned them somewhere else. So it doesn't list all of the standard shortcuts that you can find by pressing that little cheat sheet button, but it's just the custom ones that are outside of the normal shortcuts. So let's think about another one that we might want to add in here. So let's say export bookmarks. But one thing that's different about this, if you want to add a new one, let's say I click on the plus button, and if I start typing, what you'll notice is it comes up with all of the bookmarks. So we can actually easily see from here, beginning with E. So if I do start writing export, there you go. It's actually found those. So you don't need to worry about getting the exact precise spelling correct, or the terminology, or the case of it correct. It just brings them up in there. So if in that one, I could just click on export bookmarks, and then we record the shortcut by clicking in here and just typing. So say Command Shift, I don't know, B. There we go. And so now if I come back to my Safari and I press in here and do a Command Shift B, then it will actually activate that shortcut. So now we're going to export our bookmarks. So that is how you program your keyboard shortcuts into any application using this free application called Custom Shortcuts. And as you can see, it's a lot more user-friendly to see and easier to sort of flick between all of your applications and see what these are. And again, if you're using Stream Deck, I just find that this is a much sort of more user-friendly place to manage all of these shortcuts. And then when you've got your cheat sheet as well, then using it with that, you can then export these all as well. And any that you've created here in the custom shortcuts, by the way, they do also appear in the cheat sheet. So if I come back to Safari and activate cheat sheet again, just to prove the point, if I press Command in here, then we should see those ones that we just made somewhere. Look at that though, there is quite a lot of them. So they are somewhere in there. It'll be in this file memory, won't it? So there we go. Export as PDF and export bookmark. Those are those two right down there at the bottom left. Those are those two ones we've created. So once you've created all your bookmarks, they will be included in this. So then it's just a case of programming those into your Stream Deck. Now, I'm not going to go through that process because obviously there may be some people here who are not using Stream Deck. If you're not using Stream Deck already, by the way, I've got another video about how you can try it for free by using the mobile app where there's a free trial. In fact, that's about all there is to know about it, really. But yeah, I'll link to that video up in the top corner as well. That corner and also down in the description, and then I'll also leave a link to the other videos that I've got all about Stream Deck, which shows you how to set it up. But yeah, basically any of these shortcuts you can just assign to any button on your Stream Deck, and then you can just press the button and it will go over. And I don't think I've shown it this particular video, but just in case for the uninitiated, the Stream Deck is just a panel of buttons, and each of these buttons can be assigned a different action. So I did mention a little Ecam trick. So this is the little nugget for those who are interested in Ecam Live or users of Ecam Live, which is the software that I'm using to make this video. So if this is something that you're interested in, and if you aren't using Ecam Live already, then I do highly recommend it. It's a great piece of sort of live production environment software that allows me to make all of these videos on the fly, including all the different transitions and things like that. And yeah, you can get a free trial by going to my website, takeonetech.io/Ecam. And that'll take you through to the Ecam sign up page where you can get your free trial and have a go yourself. So if you are already an Ecam Live user, one of the things that you will have noticed if you are a Stream Deck user as well is that there is, as I said before, a really deep integration. However, there are some things that aren't necessarily included in the Ecam integration, and so you may want to add those yourself. So what I thought I'd do is just show you a couple of little tricks. And if you're not using Stream Deck, by the way, then this is all the more important because I can show you how to add some extra keyboard shortcuts to help you with your Ecam Live productions as well. So let me share my screen for a moment so that we can see the Ecam Live interface. And let's just close some of these down because we don't really need to see all of this at the moment, because what I'm going to show you is in the Ecam Live, you will perhaps already know that your scenes, as a default, they will order them in the order that they are in your scenes panel. So just for the uninitiated in Ecam Live, this is where you have all your different scenes. So I'm in my main scene now, or if I came down here, then there we go. It's a slightly zoomed in scene. So there's all these different scenes, and they all have numbers depending on where they are from the top. So this one at the top would be number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. So you can just flick between scenes if you're not using a scene but Stream Deck by pressing Command 1. And as you can see, all of the scenes that we've got in here have appeared in the menu item. So it's actually appears as a menu item in the scene menu. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on. Number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But that is where the scene numbering ends. So you can press Command 1 to 9 and you can change between those scenes. Well, what happens if you have got more scenes, just like I've got here? That's where the custom keyboard shortcuts application comes in, because what we could do, if you think about it, is we could just assign a keyboard shortcut to those particular scenes. Now, it may seem a little counterintuitive, because you may think, well, they aren't actually application shortcuts, they are just the names of our scenes. But because of the way Ecamm Live works, they are in fact keyboard menu bar shortcuts, menu items rather. So if I come back into my Ecamm Live, and we've got different scenes here, and I want to come into, let's see which scene we should come into. Any one of these really, but if I come into this one and I'll go, let's try that. In fact, that zoom one's already there. How about the sharing screen one? That's a common one to use. So you can see that this one doesn't have a keyboard shortcut assigned to it. Well, what I can do is I can come into Ecamm Live, and I can click in here, and then I can start typing share screen, and look at that. It actually comes up, scene, and it's in the TOT folder, Take One Tech folder, and share screen. So I can click in that one, and then I can press Command, let's say S. Now what we'll find is if I come back into my Ecamm Live and I press Command Shift S, then what should happen is it changes to that scene. There we go. It's changed to my screen sharing scene. I'll come back again now. So now hopefully you can see that there's some advantage in that. If you want to use keyboard shortcuts to switch your scenes and you've gone over your 9 scenes, then as long as you can remember them, that's a great way to do it. But how about some other things? Well, we can apply this to lots of things. So for example, every microphone that you have, every mic input coming into your Ecamm Live is also a menu bar item, or a menu item rather. So let's say you wanted to be able to flick between different audio sources. So I'm using my Shure MV7, but then it actually goes through Audio Hijack Pro and has some processing on it. So that's why it's called Processed MV7. But then there are also these other audio sources, so maybe NDI audio. Well, what if you want a keyboard shortcut to toggle between these two audio sources? And then that could come back to the Stream Deck. So if you had a different audio source that you wanted to use, you could just toggle each one on and off using the Stream Deck. Well, again, I'll just run you through this. Hopefully you should see it's not that tricky. You just click on the plus, and then we have NDI audio. So I'm going to start test writing that, and you can see I've just typed ND and it's already at the top there, NDI audio. So I'll click that one, click in the shortcut, and then Command Shift N, let's say. And so if I were to press that, I won't do it now actually because I don't want to switch off my microphone. But what it would do is it would toggle between that microphone. And if I just bring up my thing here, you can see the other way that you can do that is you can do it obviously from within the interface. So I could just press this little down arrow and I could change the audio source there. But this is just handy if you do want to actually assign that to a specific button on your Stream Deck. So I hope that that has given you some ideas of what you can do with keyboard shortcuts and with those two great little apps, custom menu shortcuts and cheat sheet. And yeah, anything that you could do in the menu now of Ecamm Live, you can program a shortcut for it yourself. And therefore, anything that you can do in the Ecamm Live menu, you can now also do with your Stream Deck by creating your own shortcut. Well, I hope you found that useful, and if you have, then don't forget to go and like the video and subscribe and turn on those notifications so that you get notified whenever I make any new videos. And yeah, it's definitely worth getting into these keyboard shortcuts and upping your productivity game. So until the next time, have a great day, and don't forget to check out some of these other great videos coming up next.